An incredibly sharp, freezing chill violently ran directly down Talia's spine. Desperately trying to hide her absolute, highly unhinged confusion, Talia slowly, highly nervously lowered her blue gaze to the mattress. Her fragile heart was currently pounding wildly against her ribs, exactly as if it were physically ready to violently explode entirely out of her chest. The terrifying, highly paralyzing thought that he could actually physically hear that thunderous roar in her chest gave her intense, prickling goosebumps. Completely panicked by her own sudden, feverish vulnerability, Talia began to babble highly incoherently, her words tripping over each other. It's just absolutely terrible, Varkas. It's deeply, highly disgusting to even imagine doing something like that, right? So stop highly aggressively pushing your lousy provincial potion at me. I already explicitly said exactly how much I absolutely hate it. But the more she frantically babbled, the more painfully frank her real, highly suppressed feelings became to both of them. Her pale cheeks were currently burning, her ears were physically glowing red with shame. She nervously licked her dry, chapped lips, her gaze darting everywhere but at him. Varkas, who had previously been frozen completely without a single movement, slowly approached the absolute edge of the bed. But Talia absolutely could not highly raise her head to look at him. He probably has a highly shocked, deeply disgusted face right now. Just a few short hours ago, I was raging like a woman possessed in the corridor, and now I'm talking unhinged, highly indecent nonsense like a common street girl. He probably looks at me with pure, unadulterated disgust. Maybe even with a cold, mocking Imperial smile. She continued to chatter frantically, exactly as if someone were violently chasing her through the dark. Do you even intellectually know exactly how disgusting this medicine is? After I drink it, absolutely everything inside me turns violently upside down with nausea. And yet you force me to take it. So well, Talia. His deep, low voice directly overhead instantly silenced her. She raised her head with absolute, agonizing difficulty. Before her eyes appeared his silver blue eyes, looking as incredibly cold and transparent as a frozen winter lake at the absolute crack of dawn. Varkas looked down at her exactly as if there were several pieces of a highly complex puzzle in front of him that absolutely did not fit together. Then he said, in a voice that was barely audible, a low, masculine rasp. I will give you the medicine to drink. Come here. Talia blinked mindlessly, her brain stalling. She didn't immediately intellectually understand exactly what he had just said. Her frantic gaze slid from the glass bottle in his massive hand to his smooth, severe lips. Suddenly, she was entirely overcome by a highly strange, deeply obsessive thirst that had nothing to do with medicine. She violently turned her head away and bit her chapped, bleeding lips. I just blurted it out like a fool. Why would you even take such a thing seriously? She was just about to continue her frantic backtracking, but then the sound of the glass vessel's lid being opened cut through the silence. Talia winced and looked up. Varkas looked at her silently, his eyes as clear and unyielding as polished ice. It was exactly as if he saw right through her. And at the same time, saw absolutely nothing of the girl inside. He absolutely did not look away for a single second as he brought the narrow neck of the bottle directly to his own lips and took a large, steady swallow. Talia's heart violently sank. Now. If I speak up and say enough, I can at least maintain the last shred of my imperial dignity. This is what I have fought so hard for my entire life. Without my pride, I am absolutely nothing in this world, but. She looked at him tremblingly. The memory of those lips that had once touched hers, that night in the capital, violently surfaced in her mind. If I sacrifice absolutely everything. If I throw away my last shred of pride. Is it possible to relive the feeling of that night again? Talia violently closed her eyes. A large, heavily calloused hand with prominent, hard knuckles aggressively grabbed the back of her head, his fingers tangling in her dark hair. The scent of hot water, eastern mint, and the same gusty, untamed wind that always caused her such intense anxiety filled her senses. Then came the pungent, cloying aroma of the concentrated herbs, cutting into her mucous membranes. His lips covered hers with a heavy, unyielding pressure. The same lips that had once cut her very soul with caustic, clinical words. Once, she had been afraid to even touch them, exactly like the razor-sharp blade of a knife. And now, those lips were violently turning her whole world upside down. She entirely involuntarily, frantically grabbed the thick silk of his shirt. Varkas pulled her head back further, significantly increasing the pressure of the kiss. At first, Talia's body instinctively resisted the intrusion, but when his massive hand squeezed her pale cheek to force her jaw open, she finally unclenched her teeth. The highly concentrated, bitter herbal extract flowed slowly over her tongue. She winced from the burning, clinical bitterness, but the sensation didn't last for long. A soft, hot tongue entered her mouth, easily, highly masterfully parting her lips. He moved significantly deeper, almost to the absolute back of her throat. She tried to push him away in a brief panic, and only then did he retreat a highly little bit. But before she could feel even a second of relief, his tongue touched the sensitive inside of her cheeks, rubbed aggressively against the roof of her mouth, and intertwined violently with her own tongue. So much hot saliva had accumulated in her mouth that everything started gushing out from the corners of her lips. And before she could even feel the shame of it, the sharp tip of his tongue broke through her defenses again. Her throat closed entirely on its own, sucking him in. This was the exact, highly terrifying moment when the instinctive desire to swallow medicine turned into a horribly obscene, deeply unhinged act of mutual consumption. She let out a highly wet, desperate moan that she absolutely hadn't expected from herself. The squelching, wet sounds of the kiss seemed obscenely loud in the quiet room, exactly as if they were pressing directly into her eardrums. She could stand the intensity no longer and began to pound her fragile fists against his massive shoulder, which felt as hard as solid stone. Finally, Varkas pulled away. A transparent, highly indecent thread of saliva still trailed from the corners of his mouth. Talia looked at it, completely unable to look away, and then timidly raised her eyes and met his calm, highly clinical, deeply studying gaze. She batted her long eyelashes in absolute, paralyzed confusion as he reached for the glass bottle again. The liquid inside began to ring against the glass. "There is still quite a bit of medicine left in the bottle, Talia." His velvety, slightly metallic voice hit straight into her ears like a physical blow. Talia opened her eyes wide and immediately looked away in shame. There was a frantic, highly violent pounding in her temples. Varkas leaned in and whispered directly into her ear, his voice demanding yet another piece of her pride. "What exactly should I do about the rest, Your Grace?" She bit her burnt, swollen lips and stared into the flickering shadows dancing in the fireplace. After an agonizingly long, highly painful pause, she nodded slowly. But Varkas expected more. He expected her to say it. Talia hesitated for a heart-stopping moment, and then forced the words out of her clenched, burning throat. Give me more to drink." The absolute next moment, her head was thrown back onto the pillow. The thick, bitter liquid flooded her mouth again. She swallowed it, sip after sip, feeling a burning, narcotic warmth flowing down her esophagus and into her blood. But the bitterness disappeared almost immediately, washed away by the heat of his mouth and the wet weight of his tongue. Talia panted heavily, her fingers clutching the silk of his shirt so hard they turned white. The intense warmth of his massive body permeated absolutely everything. Varkas pulled her body under his, and her back touched the soft mattress. Talia looked up at him in sudden, sharp fear. She wanted to get up, to stop the madness, but she physically could not. He absolutely did not let go of her for a single moment. Varkas leaned his massive hand directly next to her head on the pillow, hovered his chest over her, and continued to kiss her with a highly obsessive, deeply clinical focus. His face was hidden in the deep shadows of the room, but his icy eyes sparkled with a terrifying light. She felt as if she were actively burning in a cold, blue flame. Absolutely all of her defenses melted, and her heart filled with a high, vibrating anxiety. "Open your mouth wider for me," a hot, wet whisper touched her lips. Talia parted her jaw obediently, her mind completely gone. The hot, wet flesh slid inside again, almost to her throat. He lingered there, exactly as if he were enjoying the way she eagerly took him in, the way she was moaning like a broken thing. And only then did he slowly, highly methodically pull out. The repetitive, rhythmic movements made her dizzy. She tried to turn her head away just to breathe, but Varkas immediately grabbed her by her dark hair. His long, calloused fingers wrapped tightly around the thick strands and tugged slightly. It didn't hurt, but it was too intimate. Too indecent. "Varkas." A pleading, broken voice was heard among her rapid, shallow breathing. She herself didn't intellectually know exactly what she was asking for him to stop, or for him to never let go. When she raised her wet, high-fantasy gaze to him, Varkas was looking at her with a highly slight distortion in his severe features. He slowly ran his rough, massive palm over her sweaty, feverish neck. And then, a terrifying, highly toxic suspicion arose in her mind like a poison. Did he do this to the others? Did he do this to Ayla? A vivid, agonizing image of him kissing Ayla exactly like this flashed through her head. He probably put her to bed too. And he kissed her with this same cold, clinical skill. And he fulfilled absolutely all of her wishes. Because to him, none of this matters. It's just a duty. It's just a way to quiet a noisy child, ***, what may seem like a world-changing, soul-shattering event to me will be absolutely nothing to him tomorrow, ***, why exactly are you crying?" The lips that had just been squeezing hers retreated. His voice was dull and heavy. Varkas ran a rough, calloused finger under her eye to catch the tear. Talia hid her gaze under her long eyelashes, her heart breaking. "I'm tired. I want to sleep now." Varkas frowned deeply, but he stood up from the bed silently. Exactly as if he hadn't been the one turning her very soul inside out just a single minute ago. Varkas walked to the window and threw open the heavy wooden frame. The cool, damp night air immediately rushed in, displacing the stifling heat remaining in the room. Talia silently watched his massive silhouette, immersed in the darkness, then closed her eyes tight. Her consciousness became foggy and heavy from the medicine. If I wake up tomorrow, wouldn't it all just be a horrific, beautiful dream? With those final, agonizing thoughts, she fell into a dark oblivion. "I have already formally told everyone in the castle to keep their mouths shut, Commander, so there will absolutely be no political rumors regarding the incident with the second young master." Varkas slowly, methodically stroked the neck of his snorting warhorse, Torque, and looked at Lord Dorkin. The manager stretched his thin lips into something that looked like a polite, highly subservient smile. "Whatever you say, Your Grace, you have certainly found yourself an incredibly amazing wife. Who would have ever thought that such a violent, terrifying character was hidden behind such an angelic, imperial face?" Dorkin. The man immediately fell silent, catching the absolute, highly lethal threat in Varkas's low voice. "You would absolutely do highly better to start specifically by watching your own filthy tongue," Varkas added coolly.